First, I want to thank everybody that has subscribed, liked, commented. I appreciate everything that you've said. No matter what you've said, I appreciate the likes. Please share this with your friends. Make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you hit that share button. We're trying to make sure that everybody know that they're not victims, that they're empowered for greatness, that we can make a difference again in this nation. That we can stand up for biblical values, we can stand up for truth and push back against all the lies and everything that's false that's taking place in this land. So I appreciate that. And please, thank you for looking at my videos and participating and making our voice known. So in the latest episode of Jon Stewart's show called The Problem with Jon Stewart, honestly, I've seen it on Apple TV, but I really haven't watched it because I'm not a fan of Jon Stewart. But he talked about how the American dream is unattainable for black people, or is a fallacy for black people.
Interpretation of the American dream is it doesn't matter where you were born or how you were born or who you are, that in this country you can rise up and go beyond that. And it turns out to be a fallacy.
And immediately when I heard that, it caused me to recoil, because as a person who lived in a single parent household whose mom worked 2 jobs in order for myself and my brother to stay in the house that God had given her, when I saw her work hard, work through obstacles that were not of her making, work through a number of things, how God provided for her every step of the way. When I see things like that, and when I see myself and my brother being successful, making it out of that situation where we could have been a statistic, when I see things like that, it causes me to get really upset, because I know with the help of the Lord, anybody can achieve. Anybody, black, white, brown, it doesn't matter who you are. And especially as a young black man who has overcome a lot of obstacles to get to where I am today. The fact that he says the American dream is unattainable or is a fallacy for black people is offensive. And so I got offended. But then when I took a step back and thought about it, I was like, you know what? In the context of the way that Jon Stewart is speaking about the American dream, it is unattainable for a number of black people. And let me explain. You see, the American dream that Jon Stewart is referencing is the American dream that has risen over the last probably 60, 70 some odd years. The American dream that's based on secularism. The American dream that's based on materialism, hyper-materialistic things. That's what this American dream that Jon Stewart is talking about. He's talking about having the most things, having the most wealth, achieving the most property. That's what he's talking about. It's a heightened sense of accumulation of wealth and things. You know, it places the acquisition of material objects as the ultimate marker of success. That having the fanciest car, the biggest house, the best jobs, and the most money, all while jettisoning your biblical values in the pursuit of secular power. That is what the modern American dream looks like. So based on that description that I just gave you, most black people will not achieve that American dream. Why is that? Well, number one, because it's a secular system that's based by the elites and based on the preferences and the dictates of the elites. And only the elites will succeed in this secular system. It's based on the ideas of men. And so when a government gives subsidies and enacts programs that remove the ability of a group of people to achieve on their own merit, then naturally those people can only go so far in that system. And that's what's happened in the black community. Instead, they become slaves of the system and are locked into a state of mediocrity. And that state of mediocrity leads to poverty and crime, which leads to death and destruction. And that's the place where a majority of black people are today. They're locked in this system. They're locked in this pattern, this matriculation from poverty and crime to death and destruction. They've allowed themselves to be placed into this secular system that is rigged against them. It is rigged against them. This secular system is rigged against them. because it wants them unable to achieve that so-called American dream that we talked about before. And that is intentional. The intention is to make these people victims. But we are not victims. We are empowered for greatness. But this system is intended to make these people victims so they can feel contempt for the country that they live in. I'm gonna say that again. The intention is to make these people, black people, victims so they can feel contempt for the country that they live in. They are being used as pawns in this globalist game of power and control. The globalists, the Marxists, the communists, the socialists, the feminists, all of them want to destroy America. And so they're using the straw man of race to drive a wedge between Americans. So based on this, most black people cannot and will not achieve the modern American dream because it is secular in nature and rigged for their failure. However, they pursued the American dream, the real American dream, the true American dream, then they would be able to have good success. The true American dream, the one that drove the pilgrims to America, is the idea that man's rights come from God. Man's rights do not derive from government, they're not derived from the state, they derive from God. That man has individual agency and should be free to worship their God how they choose without hindrance from the state. In essence, it is a recognition of the individual will to make decisions for him or herself without government intrusion. In essence, it is a recognition of the individual will to make decisions for him or herself without government intrusion. And this is based on a biblical worldview because the real American dream is not secular, but biblical. It uses biblical principles that have been proven to lead to true and lasting prosperity. It uses biblical principles that have been proven to lead to true and lasting prosperity. This is an American dream that black people in the Mississippi Delta, Wilmington, North Carolina, Black Wall Street in Tulsa, amongst others, used to build communities and thriving black families. When there was true racism and true segregation going on, this is the American dream that they fought for. They didn't fight for an American dream that was secular or materialistic. They fought for an American dream that they can utilize their own agency to build a life for themselves, to worship their God, to grow intellectually, and to build their families. That they had the free will without government intrusion, without intrusion from the state. They took the truths found in the Word of God and applied them to their lives. They put their trust in the God of the Bible and believed in Him to meet their needs. They had no trust for the state. And without a return to the true American dream, most black people will lead defeated lives. I'll say that again. Without a return to the true American dream, the American dream that's based on the idea of freedom, the idea of the individual will to make his or her decisions, black people will lead defeated lives because they are being deceived by the God of this world. They're being deceived. Their eyes are blinded and they cannot see the truth. And until they come out of that deception, they will continue to be in that system that's rigged for their defeat and their destruction that will lead to their victimization. We are not victims. We are not victims. We are empowered for greatness. Thank you so much for liking your comments and subscribing to the channel. Please share this with your friends. Smash that like button. Smash the subscription bell. Share this with everybody you know. We're trying to make sure people understand that they're not victims, that they are empowered for greatness, and all this stuff that's out here that's telling them otherwise is false and will not benefit them in the end. So please, I appreciate that. Share that.